there's one truth I want you to fully grasp today, it's this: you are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of your thoughts. You are not helplessly tied to whatever pops into your head. You are not a prisoner of negativity, fear, or doubt unless you allow yourself to be. You are the gatekeeper, the guard at the door, the one who decides what gets in and what gets thrown out. But the problem is, most people have left the gate wide open, unattended. They walk around wondering why their minds feel so noisy, cluttered, anxious, why they feel exhausted by battles no one else can see. And the answer is simple: when you don't take charge of the gates, anything and everything is allowed to enter. Imagine your mind like a beautiful garden. It has the potential to grow powerful trees, nourishing fruit, healing herbs, things that feed your soul and give you strength. But just like a real garden, if you don't intentionally plant what you want to grow, weeds will grow by default. Doubt is a weed, fear is a weed, insecurity is a weed, and weeds don't need permission. They grow naturally in the soil of neglect. But when you take on the role of the gatekeeper, everything changes. You start to monitor what gets planted. You start to notice which thoughts are helping you and which ones are harming you. You stop letting just anything take root in your soil. See, most people believe they're at the mercy of their circumstances. They think their environment dictates their emotions. They say, I'm stressed because of work, or I'm anxious because of the news, or I'm discouraged because nothing's working out. But those are symptoms, not causes. The real cause is what you allow to take root in your inner world. It's not the event, it's the meaning you assign to it. It's not the challenge, it's the thought that follows. The mind responds not to reality, but to your interpretation of reality, and you control that interpretation. You must start seeing your mind as the most valuable real estate you own. It's the control center of your life. What happens in your mind shapes what happens in your behavior, your attitude, your energy, your actions, and ultimately, your future. You can't control everything that happens outside of you, but you can absolutely learn to control what you allow to live inside you. And the thoughts you entertain will either elevate you or erode you. There is no neutral ground. Every thought is either moving you forward or pulling you back. Every thought is either building you up or tearing you down. And the amazing thing is, once you realize you're the gatekeeper, you don't have to fight every negative thought that appears. You just don't let it in. Let it knock on the door, let it shout from the street, but don't give it a key. Don't entertain it. Don't invite it in and make it a cup of tea. That's where so many people go wrong. They dwell, they replay the same negative loops over and over again, wondering why nothing gets better. But the more you dwell on a disempowering thought, the more power it gains. You don't defeat darkness by wrestling with it. You defeat darkness by turning on the light. And that light is awareness. That light is intention. Being the gatekeeper means you start asking powerful questions. Not just, what am I thinking? But is this thought serving me? Does this thought lift me or lower me? Would I teach this thought to my child or my best friend? Because if it's not a thought you'd want someone you love to believe about themselves, why would you allow it to live in you? Being the gatekeeper also means recognizing that thoughts often come from somewhere. They may come from your upbringing, your past experiences, society, media, or even from voices that weren't yours to begin with. You inherited some thoughts like hand-me-downs. But just because a thought has been with you a long time doesn't mean it belongs. Some thoughts are squatters. They've been living rent-free in your mind, draining your confidence, polluting your peace. And it's time to evict them. You have to step into this role with authority. No more being passive. No more waiting for motivation to strike. No more letting life just happen to you. You weren't born to be a bystander to your own story. You are the author. You are the editor. You are the gatekeeper. And the first step to mental freedom is to reclaim that role. Stand at the gates of your mind like a warrior. Be fierce about what you allow to take residence inside. Because once you do, you start living on purpose. You start thinking on purpose. And that's when you begin to build a life not driven by reaction, but by intention. This is where it all begins, not with changing your job, your relationships, or your surroundings, but with taking full ownership of your inner world. Because when you change what you allow in your mind, you change everything. Your mind is not just a place where thoughts appear. It's a machine constantly being programmed by what you feed it. And every day, whether you realize it or not, you are inputting data into this machine. The words you hear, the media you consume, the conversations you engage in, the music you listen to, the stories you tell yourself. All of it becomes raw material that shapes your thoughts, your focus, your energy, and ultimately your identity. That's why guarding your input isn't just a suggestion, it's a requirement for anyone serious about taking control of their mind. You see, the mind is fertile ground, but it's also impressionable. The human brain is wired to absorb patterns, repeat language, and mirror emotions. If you fill your mind with garbage, confusion, and negativity, guess what will dominate your inner world? Conflicted, confused, and negative thoughts. But if you flood it with clarity, truth, inspiration, wisdom, and love, it begins to reflect those very qualities. Start paying attention to what you consume as closely as you do what you eat. You wouldn't eat spoiled food, would you? You wouldn't drink something if you knew it was poisoned. Yet so many people sit for hours scrolling through content designed to make them feel less than, left out, angry, or afraid. So many people repeat gossip, self-deprecating jokes, and negative opinions and wonder why they wake up every day feeling heavy, tired, and stuck. If you want to change your life, change your input. Turn off the noise that doesn't nourish your mind. Walk away from conversations that lower your energy. Distance yourself from voices, real or digital, that make you feel like you'll never be enough. And instead, intentionally choose what you expose your mind to. Feed it with books that elevate your thinking. Listen to voices that challenge you to grow. Watch content that reminds you of your potential, not your limits. And here's something that might surprise you. One of the most powerful inputs into your mind is your own voice. What you say about yourself is what your mind begins to believe. Every time you say, "I'm so stupid, I'm always anxious, I'll never figure this out," your brain records that. Your subconscious doesn't filter sarcasm or humor, it just absorbs repetition. That means you must speak about yourself with purpose. Speak strength even when you feel weak. Speak clarity even when things are foggy. Speak faith even in the face of fear. Your words are not just sound, they are seeds. And this brings us to one of the most underestimated forces in the world, repetition. Repetition builds belief. Repetition is how your mind learns what to accept as truth. And the truth is, you don't believe what's true, you believe what's familiar. Let that sink in. You don't just believe what's real, you believe what's repeated. That's why affirmations work. That's why advertising works. That's why lies repeated often enough start to feel like fact. It's not because they're right, it's because they're rehearsed. The thoughts you rehearse become the beliefs you carry. And those beliefs shape your emotions, your choices, and your habits. If you grew up hearing that you're not smart enough, that money is evil, that success is for other people, and you never challenged those thoughts, they likely became your beliefs, and those beliefs are now running your life, quietly, in the background, influencing what you attempt and what you avoid. But here's the incredible truth. Beliefs are not set in stone. They can be reprogrammed. They can be replaced. And repetition is the tool to do it. It won't happen overnight. You don't rewrite a script in a single day. But if you're willing to say something better to yourself every single day, consistently and emotionally, you'll start to create new mental grooves. You'll start to believe not because someone else told you, but because you told yourself. Again and again until the new belief becomes the default. This is why daily habits matter so much. Reading one page of an empowering book, listening to 10 minutes of a positive podcast, writing one sentence in a gratitude journal. It may seem small, but it's daily repetition that makes the difference. Just like drops of water can carve through rock over time, your repeated thoughts begin to carve a new identity inside you. You have to get intentional about what you're repeating. What phrases do you say every day? What stories do you keep telling? What identity do you keep rehearsing? Because you are becoming what you repeat. You are believing what you hear the most, especially if it comes from your own lips. So begin the reprogramming, begin the rewiring. Let every day be another stroke in the masterpiece you're painting inside your own mind. Feed yourself a new diet of words, images, sounds, and experiences. Be fierce about what you allow in and what you repeat, because your mind is listening and it believes you. There is a moment, a tiny window between the trigger and your reaction. It's a split second, often missed. Yet within that small space lies your power. The power to interrupt, the power to shift, the power to refuse the same old mental path and choose something better. Most people live on autopilot. They feel sad and don't know why. They get irritated and don't question the thought behind the feeling. They spiral into self-doubt and assume it's just who they are. But it's not who they are, it's just a pattern. And patterns, once recognized, can be broken. Negative thought patterns are like well-worn trails in the mind. You've walked them so many times that your brain automatically chooses them. You get challenged at work and immediately your mind goes, I'm not good enough. You make a mistake and without thinking, you spiral into shame. These patterns didn't start yesterday. They've been rehearsed, often for years. But just because they become familiar doesn't mean they're true, and it definitely doesn't mean they're helpful. If you want to take control of your mind, you have to become a pattern interrupter. That means the very moment, the very second, you recognize a thought that pulls you down, you stop it. You don't sit with it, you don't justify it, you don't give it room to grow. You treat it like a spark before a wildfire. Because once it spreads, it becomes much harder to manage. But if you catch it early, you gain the upper hand. And the earlier you interrupt the pattern, the more power you reclaim. You might say, but I can't stop the thoughts from coming. That's true. Thoughts arise, they drift in. But control isn't about preventing the thought. It's about what you do once it shows up. Do you follow it down a dark alley, or do you say, not today, that thought doesn't serve me. That thought doesn't belong in my mind anymore, and you turn, you pivot, you choose a better direction. That leads us straight into one of the most critical principles of mental control. You must replace, not just resist. You can't simply say no to a negative thought and leave a vacuum behind. The mind doesn't like empty space. If you don't fill it with something stronger, something better, the old thought will just return like a boomerang. That's why resisting alone isn't enough. You must actively replace. Think of it like a garden again. If you pull a weed and walk away, what happens? It grows back. Or worse, something more harmful takes its place. But if you plant a new seed immediately, something beautiful, something nourishing, you begin to shift the soil. You begin to tell your mind, this is the new default. This is the new story. And the more you practice that replacement, the more the weeds lose power. Let's say a thought pops up, I'll never succeed. That's a weed, old, familiar, but instead of just arguing with it or trying to block it out, you replace it. I'm learning every day. I'm moving forward. My progress matters more than perfection. At first it might feel fake, you might not believe it fully, but remember what we said earlier. What you repeat, you begin to believe. Replacement is not about immediate belief, it's about rewiring. And you don't just replace words, you replace focus, emotion, and energy. If your mind starts obsessing over something that's out of your control, don't just say, stop thinking about this. Give your mind a new assignment. Ask better questions. What can I control right now? What would strength look like in this moment? What can I do today that my future self will thank me for? These are seeds. These are replacements. These are the raw materials of a better mind. This is where many people give up. They think, I tried to change my thoughts, but it didn't work. But they tried once, twice, maybe for a few days. But the old thought patterns were built over years. You don't tear down an old structure and rebuild a mansion overnight. It takes consistency, it takes grace, it takes practice. And the more you replace, the easier it becomes. The neural pathways begin to change, your identity starts to shift, and you find yourself thinking differently. Not because you forced it, but because you trained for it. You have to be proactive about what you're planting in place of what you're removing. Negative thoughts are loud, familiar, and stubborn, but positive replacements can become louder with intention. When you interrupt a pattern, don't just pause, redirect. Don't just avoid the old path, pave a new one. Because ultimately, it's not enough to say, I don't want to think this way. You must follow that up with, this is how I choose to think now. And then you say it, then you live it, then you rehearse it again and again until the new path becomes the one your mind walks by default. There is a silent force more powerful than any external motivation, any speech, any book, any mentor. That force is your inner image, the mental picture you carry every day of the person you believe yourself to be. You see, your mind will always work to align your reality with your self-image. You can talk about goals, dreams, and intentions all day, but if the image in your mind doesn't match the vision you're speaking aloud, you will always sabotage yourself. Why? Because we don't live according to our potential, we live according to our identity. This is why daily visualization is not some feel-good ritual. It is a psychological reset. It is a conscious act of realigning your identity with your intention. Each day, even if for 5 quiet minutes, you must close your eyes and see not where you are, but where you're going. Not who you've been, but who you're becoming. You must train your inner eye to focus on the version of yourself that already lives in your future. See yourself waking up early with energy and purpose. See yourself speaking with confidence, walking with certainty, showing up for your goals with commitment and focus. See yourself free from anxiety, radiating peace. See yourself kind and disciplined, strong and graceful under pressure. See it in detail, not vague, not blurry. Make it clear, because the clearer the image, the stronger the magnet. Your mind needs a target, and that target should be your best self. But this is where people go wrong. They wait until they feel like that version of themselves before they claim it. But that's backwards. You don't visualize because you're already confident. You visualize to become confident. You don't wait until life is perfect to believe in yourself. You believe in yourself to create the life you want. Visualization is not pretending, it's training. It's the repetition of belief in the direction of your vision. Great athletes do this, champions do this, leaders do this. Before they perform, they see themselves succeeding. They rehearse their response. They don't just hope. They program their brain for excellence. And so must you. Because life isn't going to hand you clarity. You have to build it. One image, one day, one decision at a time. And that image, the one you rehearse each day, must become your guide, not your mood, not your past, not your current situation, but the image. That's how you show up with consistency. Because if you wake up each day and just respond to how you feel, you'll live a life of reaction. But if you wake up and connect to the identity of who you're becoming and let that identity drive your decisions, then everything starts to change. But visualization alone isn't enough. Vision without action is fantasy. Belief without behavior is empty. That brings us to one of the most crucial, often overlooked truths. Discipline is the bridge between thought and reality. It's what connects who you are today to who you can be tomorrow. It's what transforms mental images into physical results. Without discipline, even the most powerful thoughts die in the mind. They stay trapped, never crossing into the world. Discipline isn't punishment, it's self-respect in action. It's the decision to do what needs to be done, not just what feels good in the moment. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you strengthen your mind. You send a message to yourself that says, I am in charge. That's not just motivational, that's transformational. You want confidence? Build discipline. You want peace of mind? Build discipline. Because there is no freedom without structure. There is no success without sacrifice. And there is no lasting transformation without consistent effort. Especially when it's hard. Especially when you don't feel like it. And here's the truth most people avoid. You will never always feel motivated. You will not always wake up inspired. You will have days when your vision feels far away and your body is tired and your emotions try to talk you out of your own goals. That's when discipline takes over. That's when you do it anyway. Because if your mind knows that you follow through regardless of emotion, it stops negotiating. It just starts cooperating. Discipline is what turns intentions into action. It's not about massive leaps every day. It's about small, consistent steps in the direction of your vision. When you visualize and follow it with discipline, you begin to rewire not just your thoughts, but your identity. You don't just think differently, you become different. And that's the greatest reward. Not the outcome, not the applause, but the person you become in the process. You become trustworthy to yourself. You become grounded, focused, resilient. Because every time you choose discipline, you remind your mind, I am the one in charge. Not my doubt, not my fear, not my past, me. So, visualize daily. Hold that image with love and fire. And then build a bridge with discipline from who you are to who you were born to be. Your mind is the command center of your life. Every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every path you walk begins first in the quiet corners of your thoughts. If you don't learn to control it, someone else will. If you don't program it, it will be programmed by your past, your fears, your environment, or worse, by people who don't have your best interest at heart. But now you know better. You've seen the truth, that you can take back control, that your thoughts are not your master, they're your tools. And when you use them with purpose, you begin to shape a life that reflects the strength, clarity, and power that's already within you. You start by becoming aware of your thoughts. You guard your mental gates, filtering what comes in and what you repeat. You learn to interrupt the thoughts that bring you down, and more importantly, you replace them with ones that lift you up. You visualize who you want to be every single day, holding that image until it becomes your reality. And above all, you build a bridge with discipline between who you are and who. This is not about perfection. It's not about never having a negative thought again. It's about becoming so intentional with your mind that no thought, no matter how dark, how loud, or how old, can overpower the truth you've chosen to believe. So choose wisely, choose powerfully, choose with clarity, because your mind will follow your lead. And when you take the throne, everything changes, not just how you think, but how you live. It's time to stop letting your mind wander toward worry, fear, and doubt. It's time to train it, lead it, and build a life worth thinking about.